All right, I'd like to call this November 12th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting to order. We're going to start with a prayer. So John's going to say a prayer for us.
Dear Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for our very many blessings that we have each and every day. Lord, we lift up our military and the firemen and people that protect us every day. Lord, we just ask that you would go over our everything that we say today, that it's the best for this community. This we ask in your name. Amen.
All right, everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Stacy, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Corey Bolander.
Here.
David Kane.
Here.
Lisa Hobbs.
Here.
Tom Shepard.
Here.
Beth Vansickle.
Here.
Kelly Gaskell.
Here.
John Zimmerman.
Here.
Mark Gary.
Here.
Wes Lykus.
Here.
Thank
Thank
you.
All right. The October 8th minutes, we need to approve those. Are there any addition or correction to those minutes?
I move we accept the minutes as read.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. All right, Brad.
Good morning. The first item on the agenda was John Levine with Council of Governments giving an update on the Forward Madison County, the comprehensive plan. He's unable to be here today, but he did give me a printout that I've given to you. It's titled Planning Commission Update. Couple things just to go through on this. It's not a whole lot. He wanted to make sure that you were all aware that the draft document is available for view at www.forwardmadisoncounty.com, and urged each of you to please take a look at that and stay up to date with as they make adjustments to that document, because that will be the document that will be coming in front of you for approval once it is completed, hopefully for approval. So, they have been putting together a community profile and an economic development plan that identifies the current makeup of the county and the potential economic development benefits of the comp plan. The comp plan will show statistics regarding the present makeup of the county, and the economic development plan will identify the purpose, need, and geographic growth boundaries, will determine a list of projects to be completed, and parcel information for properties on the project list. And that is an ongoing thing as they work through the process. Lastly, you'll see a list of pop-up engagements indicating different high schools, universities, and hospitals that they intend on visiting, trying to get as much public input as they can. That is already started, and they've had extreme success at the hospitals that they have engaged with, and they still have, of course, other locations that they're intending on hitting and getting this completed. And that's really that was the full update for the comp plan. Do you have any questions that I can try and answer? If there are none, then the next item of the agenda is the public hearing for a hearing on the expanding the large solar cell farm moratorium. As you know, we've had discussions about this at the last couple meetings, just minor discussions, but with no decisions being made, other than the fact that we would like to see this extended. And Jeff sent out a sample ordinance. You should all have a copy of that sample ordinance in front of you. My request is that we extend this a minimum of 6 months and give us ample time to hopefully get this completed. If we need more time, we'll of course come back for additional time. Or if we get it done sooner, which probably not likely, but we'll certainly do what we can. But I'll pass that over to you, Wes. This is a public hearing, so.
All right. So, any discussion? Any questions, anything up here?
I just have one question.
Yeah, David.
In the original moratorium and in the extension moratorium, we make reference to the large-scale systems being defined as 50 acres or more. Is that right?
Correct.
And when I look at the original amendment or the original ordinance, the definition in the original ordinance defines large-scale solar energy systems as a solar energy system that is ground-mounted and produces energy primarily for the purpose of off-site sale or consumption. So my question is if someone wanted to build one that was only going to consume I think I may have just answered my own question, primarily for the purpose of off-site sale or consumption.
If I may, just to clarify a little bit on all of that, it's not so much in the original ordinance that it defines it as 50 acres. The 50 acres came into play with regard to companies such as IMPA coming in and putting in smaller scale, large scale solar farms for the purpose of producing energy for a local utility. IMPA currently has 2 solar farms within our jurisdiction that are specifically for the city of Anderson. And they also, IMPA also extends to the town of Frankton, so it's always possible that they could put in a small scale solar farm in that particular location to help out the town of Frankton. I'm not sure if there's any other communities that IMPA works with in the county. I think Frankton and Anderson are the only 2. Pendleton as well.
Got one,
So
yeah.
Pendleton is a third potential. So we did not want to exclude the possibility of them coming in because they are trying to broaden their energy development. They don't want to put all of their shoes in one basket, so they're trying to make it as broad as possible. So they're gathering energy from multiple sources. And if we were to make this moratorium good for all sizes, from 0 and above for large-scale solar farms, it would completely eliminate the opportunities for them to make their portfolio a little bit broader.
Their largest is what, 16 acres?
We have a 60-acre one up off of Madison Avenue, but part of that is in the city of Anderson.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
fully
what I thought.
within Madison County. I think about 40 was in Madison County and 20 in the city of Anderson.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. All right, thank you.
Any other comments?
Brad, why did you pick 6 months compared to a year?
Well, we already had the 6-month moratorium, but we've had a lot going on in the office. I believe that extends to January. I don't think it's feasible to have it completed by then. With as much as we've had going on, I have not been able to put the time into it that needs to be put into it. I'm hoping that things will slow down a little bit in the winter and allow me to do a lot more work. I'm hoping that 6 months. A 6-month extension will be more than enough time to accomplish that and then have the subsequent public hearings with regard to that and make any necessary changes. If it ends up being a busier winter than expected, then we could be asking for a further extension.
So that takes us to June,
Yes.
July. Okay.
But keep in mind, once we get something developed, we then have to get it in front of the board. So I'm hoping to have something developed no later than March 31st, and then we can get it in front of the boards for review and a public comment. That's the hope anyway. Things could certainly change depending on the amount of business we have in the winter.
All right. Anything else? Anybody else? Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this?
This is just a recommendation to the commissioners, is that correct?
Yes.
No other comment? We'll entertain a motion.
Just as a reminder, you can make a favorable recommendation, neutral, or unfavorable, however you'd like to proceed. If the motion can include that.
they could also make modifications.
Yes, you can also change any bit of this you'd like. Again, there's a recommendation for the commissioners. If the commissioners want to modify it further, it gets, play a little ping pong for a while. Eventually, the commissioners, of course, have the ultimate say.
Why can't we just make it safe and go for a year?
More than welcome to do that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, just go for a year. I mean, and we can change it any time, according to you, so.
I based that 6 months off of comments that were made at the last meeting, because it kind of sounded from what I was gathering from the planning commission that you felt that if it was going to take longer, we could just ask for an extension, but I'm perfectly fine with adding another year on.
We could be in here, Brad, asking for extension after extension after extension.
I am perfectly fine with increasing it.
I'd recommend increasing it to a year.
Making it a total of 18 months.
Yes, well, total, yeah, it'd be total, so it'd be, when does this one expire, January?
They go through the next January, right?
Go through next January?
This would take it through 2020 if you were to extend it a year. It would go until January of 2021.
I think we did it the 6 months so we get a boost to try to get off the stool and start moving.
Yeah.
And I think, I'd just soon go for a year. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I think that'd be fine. Like I said, if we get it done, all we gotta do is
Just cancel it.
cancel it.
Right.
Six months is a motivator to get it done.
That was the motivator. I think when it first started today, that was a motivator to start the whole deal. And I think that we know enough about it now that Brad's working on it, and I believe that I just don't want to see an extension after extension after extension, you know what I mean? So I'd recommend make a motion to extend it for a year.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? How do we need to read this, Jeff?
So I'm just going to mark this through, let's see, on the next last paragraph, we'll change that. That the 180-day moratorium should be extended an additional 365 days. Now therefore being ordained, shall be extended by an additional 365 days. Prohibiting as the term large-scale energy systems is defined by the ordinance until it would be January 5th, 2021.
Brad, is your workload the only limiter here?
That's a pretty big part of it, yeah. So I mean, keep in mind we do have 4 full-time employees now. One of those is a building inspector, and that's primarily all he does. And Stacy and Liz are pretty piled up as well. And so with all of our workloads, yeah, that's really the biggest holdup. So if things ease up, as I said, this winter, I should be able to put a lot more time into this. But if we have a fairly busy winter like we did last, then I'll certainly do everything I can to get it accomplished so that we can have some public hearings as early as April. That's my goal.
Almost be nice to get them done before then.
It would, but
From a standpoint, April, May being pretty busy.
yeah. But it's going to take all that time just to research and get things drawn up and so forth. It's going to take a lot of time to do that and make sure that what we put forth follows the rule of the law and isn't going to be something that can that just isn't going to have the support that it needs legally. We want to anticipate, we look at this very thoroughly and go from there.
All right.
Is an internship or something along those lines as a force multiplier, is that an option for you?
An internship would always be plausible if we had the funding for such a thing. But we're having difficulty just acquiring funding to cover attorney fees. We have a very small budget in our office. We operate on approximately $11,000 a year, and that's just it's not a large amount to work with. And the county council has a very tough job in front of them with the limited funds that we have throughout the county.
So fair to say, we're probably talking about a year.
I would say so, yes. I've acquired quite a bit of data already. It's just a matter of going through that data and getting it into a format that's fairly legible and understanding on how we wish to move forward. Yeah, and of course, comparing that data with state statute, ensuring that we're not adopting anything that's going to be questionable.
Have you projected how much expenses that's going to incur?
You know, if you just count my time, quite a bit, based on my salary.
I'm talking about legal review and et cetera.
Along with legal reviews, you're probably looking at several $1,000s. I would imagine for Jeff to review this thoroughly, I would think it'd be every bit of 40 to 60 hours, just guessing off the top of my head.
Okay.
But no, I have not done a thorough review on exactly what the cost would be.
Any other comments? We've got a motion and a second.
The motion is to adopt the changes to precinct 165 out to 2021. Who made the motion? I'm sorry. Is that you, Tom?
Who seconded?
Mark,
Thank you, Mark.
so no other comments. I guess we're ready for a roll call.
Right?
Mhm.
Favorable recommendation, right, Tom? Just
Favorable.
for the record.
All right. Corey Belander,
Yes.
David Kane,
Yes.
Lisa Hobbs,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
Beth Van Sickle,
Yes.
Kelly Gaskell,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mark Geary,
Yes.
and Wes Lykin.
Yes,
Thank you.
motion passes. All right.
The next item on the agenda is just a little overview of some of our violations. We had some questions at the last couple of hearings with regard to violations and how many we deal with and what kind we're seeing and so forth. Since approximately March of this year, we've had 86 reported violations. 4 of those were for unsafe structures, which we're in the process of taking to public hearing. In 19 out of the 82 that were reported were not violations, so they were taken out of the batch after review, after going out and taking a look at the site. The majority of the violations we received, actually 59 out of the 82, were junk and debris. That is the bulk of what we see. The second most that we see are inoperable and unplated vehicles on the property. There's many other types of violations that we see, but those are the majority. And in addition to that, let's see, where's that at? A large percentage of those have multiple violations on the property. So we're not just seeing one violation. And I know I had that in here somewhere, but unfortunately I don't see the number on that. My apologies. Out of those, the ones that we have in place, we have resolved 46 of the 82 violations have been resolved. We've sent out letters, contacted the people, worked with them, and they have cleaned up their properties or put them in storage, done what they've needed to do to clean up the property. But that still leaves a large number that have not been resolved. And we've taken one to court in the last couple months, and we have 4 more that are in the process that will probably be going to court here in the next month or 2. Several of these violations are very bad. We have one in particular on 300 East, just north of 36, in which they have multiple mobile homes. They have built a large barn structure without a permit. And when I say large, we're talking it's about a 60 by 24 foot barn. There's multiple people living out in mobile homes and campers. They have dug a hole for their septic system, and so their sewage is just running into the hole. And in addition to all of this, they are located in a special flood hazard area. So this is one that we are in the process of taking to court and get that remedied, and the health department is also involved in that. Now, the difficulty with this particular parcel is that it is off the road. It's heavily wooded, so it's not something you can see from the road. You have to go back into it, and it's not necessarily the safest place for one individual to go back into by themselves. So we've had the sheriff's department go back in there with us to ensure the safety of our inspector. Out of all the violations we've had, 23 were reported in Richland Township, which was the most, and the second most was 14 in Monroe Township. But we have not had any reported in Duck Creek, Boone, or Van Buren. So it's obviously where the higher development is at. It was where we're seeing more violations reported, which is typical. Do you have any questions for me with regard to that?
Are we still working with the sheriff's department now, or we got that going, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, they're going out tagging vehicles, and whenever we have some pop up with us, we contact the sheriff's department, and vice versa. If they come across some, they contact us, and that way we can kind of work together towards getting things accomplished, hopefully as quickly as possible.
Is that a long term, Brad? Does it take them long to respond to that and get the mess cleaned up?
It can take some time, absolutely. What you run into when you're dealing with violations is once we send out that first letter, if they make contact with us and they try to work with us to get it cleaned up, we obviously work with them to help them with that process. Sometimes they are sincere and they do work towards it. Other times they're just playing with us, or they're seemingly not really working with us, and they just do that to get an extension. And so sometimes these can take quite some time to clean up. In addition to that, we have not had a lot of support from the courts in the last several years. We're hoping that will change. We are going through different judges, testing the waters, trying to figure out who's going to work with us the best. So,
who pays for the unsafe structures to be torn down?
We have an account specifically for unsafe structures. I believe it's $35,000 a year, if I'm not mistaken. And once the structure is removed, a lien is placed on that property, and so it'll have to be paid off before they can really do anything with that property.
So you add that back to there's a lien on the properties, you say?
Yes. Okay. And the lien, I believe, is payable to the Board of Commissioners, so that money goes right back either to the general fund or to the board.
Yeah. Brad, what's it costing your department to when you go legal action to prosecute those cases?
Jeff would be able to answer that a little bit better than I could.
If it actually, most of them don't actually go to trial. Most of them, once they get a summons into court, they regard that as a bigger threat than a letter from Brad. And so most of them don't go. The ones that actually go to court, you're looking anywhere from $800 to $1,000 usually to get it. Because usually they're real quick 15-minute trials, but there's summonses and there's subpoenas sent out to witnesses and things of that nature. And so, yeah, and the complaint has to be drafted. You're requesting an injunction. You're following up on the injunction. We've had some, and one of the things, there are some people that are in violations that simply don't have the means to remedy the violation. And we've had some pretty sad situations in which the only thing we can do is ask the judge to prohibit the person from entering the property, which is not what anybody wants, but occasionally that does happen, and those are the ones at the 800 to 1,000 level, but they require multiple trips to court to enforce the order.
And this is not budgeted?
It's budgeted, and in fact, as we establish an account to pay for an attorney, and that is it. And we ask for a flat amount each year because that's how the county council handles those things. And then if we need more, we go back in front of the county council to request more money.
Thank you for that report.
Absolutely. Are any other questions with regard to that? I skipped over one of the items. I apologize. I forgot about number 3. Jeff Graham was unable to manage the second litigation suit with regard to Lone Oak Solar. So once again, we need to hire an attorney to handle that. It's, of course, I would suggest that we rehire Ted Nolding's firm specifically to manage that. They've been dealing with the first case, and they've been doing a very good job with it.
Same conflicts with the first one.
So we need to extend that hiring to them or hire a different attorney at this time.
On that note, Brad, what's the status of the charge that you received from council, from the county council to get those expenses paid for?
The tax abatement was not approved, and once the tax abatement was not approved, then that ended any agreement that was made. So currently, we do not have the funding. I'm going back in front of the county council this evening requesting funds to cover those attorney fees.
Do we have a bill thus far?
We do. I don't have, I meant to bring that and I forgot that, but we are approximately, we have about $26,000 in bills, and we have approximately $14,800 in our account. So at this time, that would put us at approximately $11,000 in the red. I'm requesting $20,000 to get us through to the end of the year. That would give us put us in the black by $9,000 once all the bills were paid. But we're going to have more coming this year.
Does he need a motion on that to hire the
Yes.
attorney?
Yes, we will need a motion to either extend the hiring of our current attorney or to hire a new attorney, however you wish to move forward.
This again is just on the extension. There's already been one lawsuit filed on the original BZA approval, and then there was an expansion petition filed, and there's also been a lawsuit filed on that one. You've already hired Mr. Coons' firm to do the original expansion. That's being litigated. The expansion one has just been filed in the last 3 weeks. So the county, normally I would take it, but I do have a conflict with one of the plaintiffs, not in a bad way, a legal conflict. And so you cannot hire Mr. Coons. There's already up to speed on law. I think from a practical standpoint, he would make the most sense. Plus, he's a very good attorney. So you can, but we do have to actually decide as a commission who we want to represent us.
Seems like he's already in the game.
Well, I mean, I'd make a
Save
motion
training
to
a new
everything
one.
he said. Well, that's why I'd make a motion to everything he said.
Okay.
I like him.
Second. Do you need it
So-
more formal than that? or-
No, that's
Do we-
exactly.
We're just to keep the one we have, yeah.
Yeah.
A motion to keep him, and we have a second. We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Corey Van Lander,
Yes.
David Kane,
Yes.
Lisa Haas,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
Beth Van Sickle,
Yes.
Kelly Gaskell,
I will abstain.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mark Geary,
Yes.
and Wes Likens.
Yes. Motion passes.
That is everything on the agenda, but I did have something under miscellaneous.
All right.
I handed you a sheet of paper that has 3 different spreadsheet columns in it. Kind of hard to read, but and I apologize for that, but I just wanted to make sure I got it all on one sheet. I wanted to let you know that I am working towards another statistical report like we put out in 2017. We will be putting this out and hopefully by March of 2020. We've been looking at all of the permits that we've had over the last several years, and we're going to have approximately 11 years of statistics in this new report. Just wanted to point out a couple things. If you'll notice you may notice if you can read the writing. In 2017, we had a total of 361 building permits. That was down by 8. In 2016, we had 369 in 2018. However, that number did come up in 2018 with 372. And as of October 24th, 2019, we've received 342 building permits. So it's very likely that we will exceed what we had last year. In addition to that, I wanted to point out that in 2017, we had 48 new homes that were constructed throughout Madison County. 2018, we had 67. And up to October 24th, 2019, we've had 39 new homes built in Madison County. Now, we do anticipate those numbers to exceed 100 next year, as we have Springbrook being very close to pulling building permits for that subdivision. They have done the final plat for Section 1A, and I believe there are 54 lots approximately in that section. They plan on doing the final plat for Section 1B here fairly soon, so there'll be approximately 80 lots in which we could be receiving building permits for. So we do anticipate seeing these numbers begin to rise. I will point out, back in the early 2000s, when we did have two full-time building inspectors, and I think we even had a third for a short time,
Yes.
we were getting approximately 900 building permit applications a year at that time. So we're a ways from that, but as things continue to develop, we could certainly see those numbers increase. And I think if we start seeing upwards of 500 to 600, we probably ought to start thinking about getting, at a minimum, a part-time to assist, if not a full-time building inspector to assist. So, but we're far from that at this point, but things could certainly start changing rather quickly here in the next year or two. So, but I wanted to give you a little taste of what's coming with the statistical analysis. You'll see on the first spreadsheet indicates the number of permits by township by year. The second sheet indicates the amount of improvements per year by township, and the third indicates the amount received in permit fees by year by township. So there's a lot of good information here, and there'll be a lot more to come. So,
You know, Brad, an interesting metric on that over time might be the number of annexations that have occurred year over year.
we did that as well in the last statistical report, and we intend on adding it again. We had a very large annexation that took place in Stony Creek Township with LaPel that has really thought that would take a big hit in the number of permits we received, but as you see, it really hasn't. They've been gaining even since with that taking place. Now the question is how many would we have had in addition to that if that annexation had not taken place?
Oh, yeah. So the amount is kind of deceiving, because you got the development down there by Pendleton, by the school, by the elementary school.
Well, that's
not
actually
included.
right. That's town of Pendleton. Yeah,
so
we're only looking at the building permits within the unincorporated part of the county, within our
But we get
jurisdiction.
more and more annexations, so we lose more and more.
That's certainly can happen, yes. That is all I have. If you have any other questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Any other questions, comments? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same, meeting adjourned.